Kid in high school, possible stoner head. Kid at his locker has putting some stuff in. He closes the locker, locks it, then he moves, but then a football jock pushes him. Move it looser, the kid gets upset. Dumbass, the jock hears, turns around. What you say, jock? Right hand push, shoo. Kid, you heard me. 1. Oh, I think you need somebody to teach you some manners. 2. You hear that, boys? He calls to his friends. I think this little twerp needs someone to teach him some manners. 3. Respect. The jock punches him and then he kicks him while he's down and then he leaves. The kid has this angry look on his face. He's upset. The B comes to the crime scene. Guy gets interrogated. Note, has the possible second bad guy. Kid goes home, says hi to his dad. Hey dad. He walks up to his room where he drops down his bag and just falls onto the bed. He relaxes. He puts on the cassette player. As has relaxed, he hears something. An egg is thrown on his window. Kid opens it, sees Jock and his friends running of Kid's annoyed. He sits on his desk, or rather lies on it. Then dad walks in. Has upset too. Son, did you do anything to make those boys mad? No. Don't know dad. Me. Did you or didn't you? Not anything to piss those boys off. Make those boys mad, son. Those boys just threw eggs at a warehouse. If you did do anything to make them upset, now's the time to tell me. I didn't, dad. I promise. The dad looks at him for a moment, then, tomorrow you're gonna clean that up. Okay. He leaves, closing the door. A close-up on the kid, then scene end. Next scene. The Rock leads to bathroom, then shower with Samantha. Note, check on Super Bowl 1992, 1997, 1994. Book 1. John, Samantha and John. J. Because I missed you. As she walks away to her car and opens the door, the back door. S. Come on, J. Wood. S. I missed you. Then walks towards him, places her hands on his head, looking him in the eyes. You've been gone in your little world ever since what happened in the stadium, and I am getting tired of waiting. She kisses him. Jay, you don't feel tired, he says as he picks her up and walks to the car, carrying her, enjoying her soft, tender lips. Note, the human condition. Note, contemporary landscape architecture, puppet master, bodies nahers, the faculty. The use of light in a given battle is very important, but it can be useful for a distinct atmosphere as well. After high school power gain, after the battle, that shock he did not expect, the man he killed, and that disc that came out of nowhere. John walked. His car wouldn't start because of the lightning, so he had to. John was surprised how quiet it was. As he wandered the streets, John barely saw any birds or dogs around, so naturally he thought that the blast from the school had scared everyone in town away. Maybe his family was hurt, maybe the how town was hurt. John had so many questions, and the more he tried to find an answer to them, he only found even newer and more bizarre questions. John had wondered what it would be like to destroy the school before, but now it was so not what he had expected, what he had hoped for. It was an unusual and yet familiar feeling. John had felt a rush like this before, but less intense. When that lightning came from the ground, John felt like he was 8 and had his first kiss. It was with Samantha's cousin at Story. He felt like he was 9 and just learned how to ride a skateboard, and when he was 12 and finally managed to go on a date with Samantha, he felt all those things all at once. He felt them, he remembered them as if they were happening all in the same time, and yet they were but date with something else, something strong, something magnificent, something that would change his life forever, and he felt it all so strongly, so rapidly. The might of the force he felt rushed through him with such speed. The length of time it took for the power to cross through him was so small he barely even noticed the lightning. That force was on his mind. That intense feeling of memory and power was all that he could think of in that moment. If you put a hydrogen bomb right next to him and pulled the trigger, he'd barely even notice it. John had just woken up inside his school. Everything around him was silent. It seemed like morning, but it was the afternoon, 5:20 in the afternoon, and he had just fought a man who, for all he knew, had killed his best friend's dad and had punched him through a wall like it was nothing. And don't get me started on that flying disc thing. John felt alone and confused. He was worried about what this meant for his friends, how his girlfriend would react if she was safe. But after all that worrying, he never not once saw it as a curse. He did not see himself as a freak or as a superhero. He just saw what he was. He saw that he was strong now, and he did not find that weird or dangerous, strange love, or even horrifying. He just up and accepted it. It's a weird thing, isn't it, when people's how entire lives are turned over and they somehow adapt. It's strange how fast people can adapt to things. Note, use this. It was an outstate, a state of not thinking, a state where thought wasn't put in words but was just there, a constant state of indulging in one's instincts and seeing things simply as what they are, and yet in that state where he could be afraid. Tavari, one thinks of enlightenment as a state of absolute peace. But that peace is an illusion. The state he was in was a state of absolute focus, a state where he could be hit by a truck and barely care, a state where he could jet fixated on an object 4 hours at a time, a state where he could truly live in the moment, and yet it was a state where he could experience fear. Note, don't use the phrase submit to fear. Submitting to fear is in its meaning a self-nullifying double negative. Fear is the process of submitting to aversion. To submit to the submission of aversion is in itself impossible. Although I Jews you could argue that the process of submission can be the thing to which one can generally submit, essentially to adapt to the process and accept it into one's philosophy of the world, to assert oneself into the idea of submitting to aversion. Note, fixated on a branch like it was a nuclear bomb in Sumon's toilet, a hard-to-explain state filled with extreme focus. John wondered where was he to go. He was burned all around and yet as fit and as strong as an ox. In his case literally 10 oxes. His clouds looked like someone had emptied their handgun through, but John had only a few bruises. How was he supposed to explain this? If anyone saw him, what were they to think? Would anyone make the connection that he was the one who trashed the school? What would it mean for him if anyone knew his secret? Would he be held inside a lab? Would he even get to see his family? Were they in danger? Was John fighting the government? Was he part of some strange secret experiment? What was going on? Where did these powers come from? Was he even a problem? Did the man he threw through a wall remember his face? If he did, was he working for someone? Some secret MIB Nikita type place, or was the guy he fought someone looking for power? Did he even have a boss? Would he come after John's family? All of this, where did it all come from, and most of all, what did it mean? Note, churches are weird places. Where else can you have a eulogy for a dead body and be married in the same week? The best way to win a war is to surrender. Totally, completely. John remembers and thinks about the past. Origin story. The best way to win a war, of course, is to surrender totally, completely. Surrender is something that you do. To know when to implement this theory, stopping not pursuing is a very distinct ability. Stopping not pursuing these aspects of a battle are feared but respected by those who should follow you in battle. By some they are unacceptable. By others they are seen rarely as a strength. To know how and when to stop. Sometimes stopping can be a stronger weapon than fighting. The true strength of battle is not to count what someone does, the actions he has taken, how many kills, how many loses, the way one handles oneself, who's the victor and who is the loser, what someone did as a sign of bravery or of cowardness, how long one stands in the battlefield, how short, or even when he lets go of something when it gets too hard to painful. The true strength of the battlefield is whether one is present or not. Now you can interpret that however you want, but I feel that sense of being there, whether it is true focus, persistence, belief in the cows, or just sheer spite. That feel is the most important thing in the battlefield. It gives us strength and power. It goes into our minds and souls, struck us into aware minds and aware IDs. What we see as a common or personal spirit, and most of all even in aversion, sometimes known as fear, that thing you hold inside, no matter what, it's there and gives you sight. It is the true strength of the battlefield.